Excellent. Right, good morning, everybody. Everyone okay? Everyone excited to learn about new bits of technology? Yay! Accounting stuff. Way! Brilliant. Yes. Okay. So I'm here to talk to you today about giving a little bit of insight into the thoughts of the guys at Microsoft in terms of the way that they see the world developing. I know that sounds like a slightly wonderfully arrogant expression, but when you have organisations the size of Google, the size of Microsoft, the size of Apple, when they invest in what they think is the vision of the world, it's probably worth listening to and probably paying attention to in some way, shape or form. Okay, so Microsoft have launched this campaign called Modern Biz. Now, if you are regular viewers of or regular readers of changes at the top within Microsoft and these other big global corporations, you'll know that Microsoft have had lots of changes within their organisation. Foremost amongst those changes within their organisation is the appointment of a new chief executive officer, a chap called Satya Nadella. Everybody heard of this guy, Satya Nadella? Some way, shape, or form? Okay. So before Satya, there was a fellow called Steve Ballmer within the organisation, and Steve was a very, very interesting chap. I used to go to my annual sales event at Microsoft with 13,000 very close colleagues, where we would have this guy Steve running around giving it some of the sell stuff, we're amazing, you're the best, no, doing chest bumps, the lot, right? So you have about 12,800 people participating, and the Brits going, okay, not really sure what's going on. So, but Microsoft was an organisation that was all about selling two things: Windows and Office. How many of you haven't used Windows or Office in the last 5 years? Yeah, I very rarely get a hand go up. I did actually have a guy who's a bad Linux fan stick his hand up, but that was slightly awkward. Now, the reason I'm talking about Satya is he has got a very, very concise view of what he wants Microsoft to become, and what value he wants to deliver to his customers of the future. And for him, it's all about making Microsoft a mobile-first and a cloud-first organisation. Now, I mean, all of us have had our lives changed in some way, shape, or form in the last 5 or 6 years through the advent of the advent of the smartphone, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's an Android device, or maybe even a Windows phone. And it's kind of an obvious thing to say, mobile first. That's quite important. Now, the other thing that we think about when it comes to mobiles is, well, 10 years ago, I bought a lovely camera, very big piece of camera with film in it. Then I bought a digital camera. Then I threw the digital camera away because I hadn't used it for 5 years because I was using it. The way we work is changing. The way we consume technology is changing at an incredibly increasing rate. Does anyone remember the Apple adverts? There's an app for that. So you go to the Apple store and you download an app from the store, and there'll be an app for everything. More than 1 million apps in some way, shape, or form. One of the really fascinating things from the Microsoft perspective that if you didn't have a Windows device 3 years ago, you didn't exist as a mobile customer. Today we see Office, Microsoft's champion product, if you like, being launched on iPhones and Android devices before Windows devices, and that's a game changer in the mentality of the organisation. Microsoft is really trying to ensure that as many people are being as productive as possible with their kit on mobile devices. Secondly, we've got this thing called the cloud. Who is not familiar with cloud? Again, it's now a pervasive saying. 3 years ago, I would have been up here explaining what the cloud was, saying it's this thing called the internet with stuff behind it. But we all now understand what the cloud is about. Now, it's taken a long time for some of these larger organisations to kind of get their heads around the proposition of what cloud can deliver and what value these organisations can deliver to you guys. And the statement from Satya is that he wants to make sure that as people change, as people evolve in terms of the way they use and consume technology, they can be as productive as possible. And it's a very, very simple strapline. It's not about use some Windows, get some Office. Microsoft are now developing very quickly lots of applications around and lots of platforms around its cloud architecture now. So you've all probably heard of Office, yeah? Have you all heard of Office 365? So Office 365 is not only Office, the desktop application, but it's also OneDrive, for those where you can store personal files or company files. It's also Mail, it's also SharePoint. It's a full productivity suite that you can access from any device, anywhere, because it's in the cloud. Then if we look at Microsoft's other investments in the cloud, they've invested in, this is slightly more techy, they've invested in a platform called Azure. And that platform called Azure can be as simple as virtual servers sat in the cloud in their data centers in some way, shape or form, to slightly more complex platforms like infrastructure as a service. Then Microsoft's cloud ecosystem is finished off with the business applications. Now, business applications is obviously very dear to my heart and dear to Steve's heart, and probably dear to all your hearts in some way, shape or form. When I talk about business applications, I mean ERP, typically Dynamics NAV and Dynamics CRM. If I had been talking to you as a Microsoftie 2 years ago, this would not have been on the slide. Microsoft recognises that in order to complete their vision of creating productive organisations and productive individuals, that they have to invest, and they had to invest more and more in their business apps solution, business app solutions. And the great news for all of you existing NAV customers is, we're seeing really rapid pace of investment and development in those applications. So let's talk about a little bit more about Azure. One of the challenges around cloud and cloud adoption has been this concept of what we call the local cloud. So if we'd been having this conversation a month ago, I'd be saying, well, you can move all your data, all your infrastructure into Microsoft's cloud data center in Ireland or Holland. A month ago, Microsoft announced that they are opening 2 data centers in the UK. The interesting thing for me is that Microsoft is now the fastest acquirer of servers in the world. Something like 56,000 servers a month are being purchased by Microsoft to put into their new data centers. Microsoft no longer buys servers by the server. They buy them by the container, by the shipping container. It's kind of fascinating. If I was the HP or Dell salesman, I'd be a very, very happy chap. But what that means for us is that it means that the average cost of computing unit for us as consumers and business people is going down dramatically. Since Microsoft launched Azure, the price has gone down something like 77% since they first launched their cloud platforms. And that's kind of really obvious bottom line value to us in some way. So, I talked about Office 365. This has been the fastest growing application that the fastest growing product that Microsoft has ever had. So if you haven't looked at Office 365 yet, I suggest that it's something that you do investigate. Because guess what? If you've invested in other parts of the Microsoft real estate, well, guess what? The other parts of Microsoft real estate will integrate with Office 365. So if we'll go on to have a conversation about some NAV-specific features, but there's now SharePoint client for NAV, which plugs directly into Office 365. The integration with the Office apps is tighter than ever. Okay. I'm conscious of time, so I'll miss a single slide or two. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about is, we've all, I'm presuming the majority of us, are NAV users in some way, shape or form. Hands up, those of you who are NAVists. Ooh. Okay, good. More than 50%. One of the challenges has always been, from my perspective, I've worked with accounting applications in some way, shape, or form for more than 20 years. Shock, horror, gasp, you can't be that old, Will. Well, I did start when I was about 12. One of the challenges I've always had is, and I've always been faced with, and it's a conundrum that I suspect a lot of you are faced with in some way, shape, or form, is how to take the accounting application and the accounting data outside of the accounting department. How to almost, if you like, democratize the data. Terrible American expression, but really, really apt in this regard. You know, how do we make to ensure that people within our organisation are informed in the right way and in the right time about what's going on within our business? And how do we get them to interact with our line of business application without picking up the phone and asking us to do something? One of the most obvious things is to say, well, have you got a mobile device? You can do it yourself. And that's where we're trying to move to with lots of the functionality within NAV. And if we think about some of the challenges that we're faced with on a reasonably regular basis, we're always striving to reduce manual intervention within our ERP system. We're always trying to get more interesting, more real-time insights out of our system. I mean, you're going to be seeing a really great business intelligence tool with Paul later on, with Jet Reports, in terms of using a tool called Excel. Anyone familiar with that one? To get really, really strong, powerful business data out of your solution. Using the tools that we've already got. Who uses Outlook? Who uses Outlook? Yeah, Outlook's pretty good. That's all right. You kind of, who's been trained on how to use Outlook? Who's been on an Outlook training course? Who's been on a training course on how to create a task, how to create an appointment in calendar? No one has. And we're trying to get to that point with the business applications, that it's as easy to use the business application as it is to use something like Outlook. But then when you create a task in Outlook, or you want to be able to see that task across your business application as well. I've talked quite a lot about the cloud, so I'm not going to belabor that point too much. But suffice to say, NAV is absolutely 100% optimized to sit with the Microsoft Cloud real estate, whether that's Office 365, on Azure, and in Office 365. And Microsoft are making a huge investment in Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online. Any Microsoft Dynamics CRM customers here? Okay, if you want to talk about that with myself, you certainly can. Okay. So we did some research into some of the, if you like, the growth inhibitors within your typical SMB. Now, Microsoft has a very, very broad definition of an SMB, and Microsoft measures an SMB by the number of PCs on its desk. Very quaint. So you are an SMB officially if you have between 5 and 250 PCs. Right? So, and this is a North American and UK study. What we found was that 71% of you say that ERP systems are really important. Well, that's kind of obvious, and that's probably, you probably already get that, you're already here. But why we're seeing a lot of change within the business solutions market is that organisations are realising that what they have today isn't flexible enough to fit in with where they want to take their organisation in the next 3, 5, 10 years. And one of the big items for me has been the number of people that start adopting other parts of the Microsoft stack and Microsoft technologies to enable that vision, that desire to change their organisation. And 3 years ago, there were lots of those options did not exist. Did not exist. One of my personal bugbears is what I call the Microsoft Shuffle. So what I mean by Microsoft Shuffle? Alt-Tab, Alt-Tab, Alt-Tab to go from window to window to window. Why? Because you have so many line of business applications open at any one time that it's very, very hard to either keep track or reprocess information. And I'm starting to see a real strong convergence into single applications. Fascinating for me is the number of NAV users who are now increasing, the footprint of NAV with no organisation to take out other individual line of business applications, whether it could be like a warehouse, expense management, procurement, all coming into a single into a single application, because it all makes sense. And it's making even more sense when I consider NAV 2016. One of the first companies to move to NAV 2016 was an organisation called Bounce Energy Balls. Has anyone ever come across Bounce Energy Balls? So next time you're on the motorway, you pull into the services and you go to one of the posh services that's got a Waitrose. Bounce Energy Balls will typically be by the point of sale. So I've done my bit to promote them. Very nice, very healthy, evidently, unless you have a 10. So Bounce was one of the first organisations to move to NAV 2016. And the reason I thought I'd mention this is because they were also one of the first customers to go to NAV 2015. Their upgrade to NAV 2016 took 3 days. From 2015. It took 3 days to go to 2016. Why did they do it? Because they had just invested massively as an organisation in Office 365. And they thought, well, we want to take advantage of the Office 365 integration with NAV 2016. Let's be one of the first organisations to do that. So I was with Gary last month at a Microsoft conference. He stood on stage, talked 15 minutes very, very eloquently about why he went to 2016. Big thing for him was to make his life easier and make him less. Well, he described himself as the point of maximum nag. So he was the COO within an organisation, and he was still being asked to provide data, to provide reports to people because they didn't have access to their information. Went to 2015, went to 2016, and people started accessing data through their mobile device for real-time information in NAV, using standard functionality. We'll be giving these slides out. Yes. All of these slides have links on. So you'll have homework to do after this. You thought you had morning up? No, you have homework. There's a great YouTube video of Gary talking for about 10 minutes about why he went to 2016 so quickly. Small businesses, 40% of small to medium-sized businesses don't want to move their ERP application to the cloud, and that's okay. Because the great thing about NAV, we all know this, is that you can have it in the cloud or you can have it in your own server room, securely, or indeed your own private hosting arrangement. In terms of how you consume NAV, well, you all probably use the Windows client. Some of us may even still be using the classic client from NAV 2009 and earlier. The new Windows client is something that you're going to be seeing with Steve, but you can also consume NAV in a multiple number of browsers: Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and if you're on Windows 10, Edge. Yeah, I have to say it like that because it's what a great name, Edge. If you've got a tablet, whether that's an iPad, Android tablet, or even a Windows tablet, Windows Surface is a device I use myself. You can access it using the app. If you go to the Apple Store, iStore, Android Store, you can download the Dynamics NAV app onto your phone, type in the address of your local, of your NAV instance, use your same credentials, and you'll be presented with all of your data in a cut-down version of NAV. Very, very, very cool stuff. So, some of you may have picked up that I'm Welsh. Therefore, I own nostalgia, right? I love looking back. I love putting the rose-tinted glasses on. I love looking back over time because it's always better then. Really, technology? No. It's been an interesting journey. I started at Microsoft round about here with the NAV 5.0, And from NAV 5.0 up until probably NAV 2013, from an end user perspective, a NAV user perspective, there's lots of head scratching. What's changing in the application? What new stuff, what cool stuff is happening in the application that I really want to use? Why do I want to upgrade? And the answer was that Microsoft was very, very busy investing very, very heavily into the architecture of the application to make it a mobile-first, cloud-first application. Because when 2013 came out, it was a bit of a revelation. Lots of gasps. I was lucky enough to be at Microsoft to launch NAV 2013 R2 before I started up QBS here in the UK, and the reception has been absolutely tremendous. Okay, I'm about to do a call that I always regret afterwards. Well, I sometimes regret afterwards. I'll tell you if I regret it over coffee. So, how many of you are on versions of NAV 2013 upwards? Okay, how many of you are on NAV 2009 upwards? Okay, so you're so lucky. All of you are so lucky that you've got this wonderful journey to experience of heading up to 2015 or 2016. So 2015 was a game-changing launch in itself. There are three main tenets behind 2015. One is the fact that Microsoft invested heavily in its rapid start toolset to enable quicker, more seamless upgrades and quicker implementations of functionality that they may or may not have used yet. Some of the new user experiences were released in 2015, and some new application functionality was released in 2015. But with 2016, which was released a month ago-ish, in Mannheim, Germany, a big event called Directions, a whole load more functionality came out. And the interesting thing is that it's not just going to be 2016. It's going to be 2017, 2018, 2019. Microsoft are now investing in an annual launch cycle. They can do this because they have made the architecture so much easier to upgrade. Now, going from version 5, 2009 and older, to 2013, typically will require a bit of business analysis in terms of what you've got versus where you take the application. But from 2013 onwards, or 2015 onwards, the upgrade process is a great deal smoother. So it means that Microsoft can start really, really powering the investment and driving home. And one thing that is really interesting, if I look at the other competitors out there, I know for a fact that NAV has more developers, has more people working on that application than any other comparable business application. And that's a great place to be if you've already invested in the application. 130,000 organisations now use NAV every day. 1.6 million people log on to NAV every day. How lucky is that? Okay. So with 2016, there's quite a lot of new functionality. I'm not going to do detail on all of them. I've got a series of slides behind here with some find out more clicks on and videos about. One thing I would also say about 2016, it's the best publicised launch. One of the things Microsoft has been guilty of in the past, saying, yay, we've got this new product, and just feeling very good about itself, and just, yeah, I've got this new product, yeah, you will use it. Microsoft has learned that people need to be convinced to go on to the next version in some way, shape or form. Right? So there is a load of how-to documents, a load of videos around each one of these specific blocks. One of the big, I'll call out a couple of really interesting bits of functionality that organisations are really interested in. Workflow. For those of you with a slightly more technical view of the world, workflow has absolutely been something that organisations have been crying out for within NAV. And I'll be honest, our competitors used to say, well, NAV hasn't got its own workflow engine. It's always had workflow in some way, shape or form. Now it's got it, but so much better. So workflow built into the application by default, very happy about that. For those of you who are considering CRM or CRM Online, it's fantastic out-of-the-box integration now with CRM. It's so easy, even I could do it, which was a slightly insulting thing that one of my guys said to me yesterday. So, So if you think about in terms of what's other parts, Rapid Start, if you're where we're seeing Rapid Start get used a lot is to add additional functionality that you've already purchased from the application. Interesting statistic, 13%. Why is 13% an interesting statistic? Because that's typically how much you use of your NAV application. 13%. So that means 87% of untapped potential in an application in some way, shape or form. And people are using Rapid Start to enable that 87%. So, as I said, we've got a number of little bit of homework. I think Steve, you're going to be marking them over the next next week or so. Have you clicked on this? Have you looked at that video? Ignore it says partner confidential. It's no longer partner confidential. It's just my laziness from a PowerPoint perspective to remove. CRM integration is actually pretty fascinating, because when I've seen integration projects work in the past, or kind of work in the past, I've never very rarely see one work perfectly, if I'm entirely honest. What NAV does is actually surface the data of CRM. It doesn't store the data of CRM, and vice versa. So CRM surfaces the information. Why is that important? Because first of all, you create a light touch integration point. So if you upgrade one system, you haven't got to rewrite the integration, which is, for those of you who had integration projects, probably has some scar tissue built deep within your integration. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about was an application called Power BI. Power BI is Microsoft's visualization tool for data. And it complements, if you've got existing Excel capabilities, if you've got existing JET capabilities or looking to get JET capabilities, Power BI sits next to it exceptionally well. This has been Microsoft quite kind of late to the market from a BI perspective, and they're trying to make up for it. I think it's fair to say they're releasing updates to Power BI every month. For those of you who haven't had a chance to play with it, you can get a free account if you go to www.powerbi.com and have a play with it. It's kind of cool. Kind of cool. So there's new document management functionality, and Rich will be talking to you about Spindle as well shortly. E-invoicing, another new piece of functionality, is a great electronic data interchange. I've just called it EDI. It's not actually EDI, but it's a way to transact seamlessly over the internet. Workflow is absolutely something I love, quite frankly. One of the things I was taught when I was at Microsoft was how to present software. One of the things you should never say is, this is what I love about my software, in a really geeky manner, but this really is what I love about the software, slightly geekly. This, I think, has the potential to be one of the biggest game changers from an NAV perspective. And I'm seeing a lot of interest from a QBS perspective. We look after about 28,000 customers throughout Europe, and this is absolutely one of the biggest, if not the biggest driver for upgrades to 2016. So again, homework, videos and blogs. Very exciting. And for those of you who are pure finance, you shouldn't feel left out, because there are financial enhancements to the application, in particular around new deferrals. I'm not going to try to talk to you about those, because I would get lost within about 5 seconds. Web client, for those of you who have gone to 2013 R2 or 2015, the web client has been made more and more responsive. Again, great. And again, I've got this one here to kind of highlight that Microsoft are really making strides with their cloud investments. They've got this application called Azure Database Services. So Microsoft have got this massive single SQL Server database that you can store your own data in and plug NAV into, which allows you to have massive parts of data. So I've tried to put a why, what, how, and some tips into this PowerPoint for you. I hope you enjoy it. I've gone slightly over time, only by 3 minutes, which is kind of first, I think. So thank you for listening to me rattle on about the business, the Microsoft Cloud, about productivity, Office 365, platform Microsoft Azure, but most importantly, how the business applications from Microsoft work with all of that. And now I've got one thing to ask, apart from do your homework, is do speak to Steve and the gang about what Now 2016 can do for your business. Most of you have already bought it in some way, shape or form, so I think it's almost incumbent upon you to do it. And finally, enjoy your day. I'll be hanging around. Come and nag me about stuff, as long as you bring me a coffee. Yeah, deal? Thank you.